We're back in our SharePoint site, so I can talk to you for just a couple minutes about some new features in SharePoint 2010 and SharePoint Designer 2010. Microsoft SharePoint has supported workflows ever since SharePoint Portal Server 2003, but the 2003 versions of SharePoint required that you use other tools to create workflows, tools like Microsoft BizTalk Server, or you had to talk to a developer and have them create some custom code for you, or if you had the patience and the skills, you could learn Visual Studio yourself to create code. So SharePoint workflows really took off for the first time in a big way with the addition of SharePoint Designer for SharePoint 2007. SharePoint Designer replaced a tool called Front Page that had been used in earlier versions of Office, but which wasn't a great tool to use at all for orchestration or for workflows. So SharePoint Designer, the replacement for Front Page, really made it easy to start working with workflows. With SharePoint Designer, then, a wide range of users are able to create workflows to support their business processes. Workflows aren't just for developers anymore, but can be created by Microsoft SharePoint power users, Office power users, and business analysts. If you ever use SharePoint Designer 2007, as soon as you open SharePoint Designer 2010, you know that you're in a new and an improved tool. SharePoint Designer 2007 was great, but it had its real limitations. For example, if I created a workflow on one part of a site, I couldn't easily reuse it somewhere else with SharePoint Designer. If I wanted to copy it and reuse it, I needed to be able to use more powerful tools like Visual Studio. SharePoint Designer 2010 supports workflow reuse and some other nifty features like support for parallel actions so that you can have two steps happening at the same time in your workflows. There are 3 ways to create workflows for SharePoint 2010. The first is you can use SharePoint and customize one of the out-of-the-box workflows that already exists. If you're running SharePoint Server 2010, you have access to 8 workflows that are pre-built. Some of them are compiled and you can't change them, but there are a group of them that are called declarative workflows. You can customize them because they're compiled each and every time they're used. So you don't even need SharePoint Designer to be able to change those out-of-the-box workflows. The 8 that you find in SharePoint Server, and the 1 that comes with SharePoint Foundation. You can use SharePoint Designer, free from Microsoft, and again, easy access. You don't need to be a programmer to use this, but if you are a programmer, you might want to use Visual Studio. Microsoft Visual Studio is a coding environment for developers, and there are some times that we need to write some code. If you need to do some things with your workflow that you can't accomplish by using the tools in SharePoint Designer, you can still create the entire workflow in SharePoint Designer and then save it as a template and hand it off to a developer who can add the coded sections that you need. In this course, we're going to focus on the workflows that you can create without needing to use Visual Studio or any other programming environment, what are called no-code workflows that we'll create using SharePoint and SharePoint Designer 2010.